15, what's our first algebra step? Add 5, then divide by negative 5. Okay, so 15 plus 5 is 20. Then we're going to divide by negative 5. How many of you wrote no solution? 1.
Good job, Jada. Good job.
Okay. When is the absolute, oops, I made another oopsie. I gotta flip the sign, right. I gotta flip my inequality sign because I divided by a negative. Okay. When is the absolute value of any number greater than a negative? Always. How do I write always as an answer? Math answer. All real numbers. What's the symbol that we talked about for all real numbers? The R with the 2 lines, almost like the paragraph. How do I graph that on a number line? The whole thing, right? Interval notation. How do I write all real numbers? What's the smallest answer? Negative infinity to infinity. So if you're writing it in interval notation, another acceptable answer. You guys are going to see all 3 of them. Okay? Always, sometimes you'll see that as a math answer written out sometimes, but not very much. Okay, now I'm going to drive home to this point one more time. If you're not sure if your answer is correct, this is your device, not me, not a teacher, not the answer solution book. This is how you check. Okay, so I'm going to show you one other way to check your answer. I mean, if you checked in the back of the book, you check the answers on the selected answers, great. But I also want you guys to be able to do this. Okay? So when I go into y equals, I'm going to clear whatever's there. If you guys look to the left of the y equals, there's a solid line there, and that just means that's what you guys would graph. It will graph inequalities also. So if you scroll to the left of the y equals, click on enter. If I come down here, I can change what kind of line it is. This is greater than, this is less than. A little bubble with the trail. There's a little bubble there. Dash lines, more of a dash line or a regular. Okay? I'm going to leave this one just as normal for right now and then change the second part. So I'm typing in my original equation here. Okay, and I asked you guys to do this last week just to check. And I know that even if you didn't know how to do the shading on there, you would still be able to see the V face down, and then you would see negative, or you'd see 15 way up there. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to a less than sign, which it looks like it is. And I'm going to put in my number 15, and I'm going to graph. Okay? Now, if it's a normal scale, hold on, that's not normal. If it's a normal scale, zoom 6, negative 10 to 10, negative 10 to 10, I won't see my horizontal line. So I need to know my horizontal line's at 15 and my scale only goes up to 10. So that means that I would have to go in here and change my window to match. And I want my Y max to be, let's say, 20. Then I know that I would see it. Or you can hit zoom out. I've also showed you guys that, right? So how do I know from this graph that it's all real solution rather than no solution like Jada found? How do I know that? What do you guys see that would indicate all real solution? It's inside of the triangle too. Inside a triangle, outside a triangle, everywhere, right? So if it's no solution, it was because we did an equal sign. Equal sign means it would touch that. Well, clearly it doesn't touch that, but the entire graph is below that line. That's how I know that it's no solution. So now let's take a peek at number 16. Because 16 would be the other one. Jada, did you get no solution on this one?
Yeah.
Okay. So she subtracted 10, divided by 8, right? She got a negative, so she wrote no solution. Is it possible for any positive number to be less than negative 1? No. So she's right on this one. Okay?
Why didn't you put this in one?
What?
The all the symbol, I didn't put that one.
Because I didn't divide by negative.
Okay. I just
The only time, and I had it up there, but I erased it. The only time that you flip the inequality is when you divide or multiply by a negative.
Right.
It's okay to get a negative answer. That's okay. So this is no solution because absolute value cannot be less than a negative number. I should say answer number, whatever. So how do you shade no solution on this number line? You don't, right? If there's no answer, nothing for me to shade. Okay, let me show you one more time. I'm going to clear out this equation, clear out this equation. I'm going to graph my absolute value, even if you wanted to do it by hand. This isn't a terrible graphing question. Might be a little high on the, this time I have less than, right? And then I have 2. Okay, hit graph. Here's my V. Well, you guys can't actually see it. I'm not sure why. I can see it. See if I zoom in a little bit here. There it is. What part of my V is shaded now? None. So this is the proof that I have no solution because none of my graph is below that -1 mark. Okay? Even if you didn't know the inequality, you would at least be able to see that visual to know, okay, I get no solution. Alright, are there any other ones on here, 1 through 16, that you guys need me to give you the answer to or to do? I think those were the only 2 that were kind of. Okay. How many of you guys, show hands, handed that in? Good. If you did not hand it in, I'm going to take that right now. The rest of you guys that did hand it in, I need you guys to get out the note sheet from last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? 1 through 16, if you did not hand it in Friday, I'll take it right now. Anybody else? Did you name our both again? One time and one time only, I'll do it for you, okay? Only because I was headed right up there. 16? Oh, I'm not taking it.
Can I send it to you in copy?
No.
Email it?
Maybe, one time. Yeah. Do it on separate sheet of paper. Okay.
Alright.
Okay, now on the note sheet, I need you guys to turn to example 3, or what they call explain 3. We are wrapping up the word problems today. The good news about these word problems is they are a lot easier than the last word problems that we did, because the format is a lot easier. So, what I need from you guys right now is simply just to read the top 2 sentences and the beginning part of example 3, and then we'll come up with the equation together. And these equations are a ton easier than what you guys did last week. I know that some of you guys complained about them. They did a call. These ones should not be. And I need to take attendance. did you get on to Google when you were gone? There's nothing for me to give you, everything is on there. If you need to come in here, I can actually know to go through some of that stuff. That'd probably be a good idea. Alright, my attendance is good. Done. So, in any situation, when you have things that have a certain weight or size, right, diameter, radius, volume, anything like that, they have what's called an acceptable tolerance. Tolerance means how much it could be up and down by. For example, if you guys take a test and it's out of 36 points, if you get a 35 or a 34, it's pretty much the same score, right? It might be a couple percentage points off, but it's still going to be an A. So you could have anywhere from a 95 to 100, and that would be your A. There's 4 points basically there that you could reach that 100%. So with anything that's being cut, so for example, 2 years ago I built a deck, and I got 16-foot boards. Right? I was doing a 16 by 32 deck. I was frustrated because not every board was 16 foot long. So mathematically, I want things to line up nice. I want them to be square, right? My diagonals needed to be square. I couldn't make them square because none of the boards were actually like identical to each other. That's what this is talking about. If you have something, there is an acceptable distance, right? It doesn't mean that they have to throw away every single board that's over. But if it's under, I would be incredibly mad. So if it's over 16 feet, I can go ahead and cut it off at 16 feet, right? But if I got a board that was at 15.75, I can't make it to 16. So then I'd have to cut all my boards more and make it less than what I wanted, which would throw off it being square because it's 16 by 32. It would be very hard to make it square at 15.75. So when they give you these questions, there's an ideal length or width or percentage or something. And then there's an acceptable tolerance. When they give you guys the acceptable tolerance, there's also an inequality that's implied in there. So for me, the word at most is the inequality. Okay? At most means which inequality? Less than? Less than or equal to? Greater than? Greater than or equal to? Less than or equal to? Okay. What is the ideal length for this board? 3.25 meters. The other thing that you guys need to be conscientious of today is making sure that you have a label on it. Because if it has a label, it means something. It's like real life math. The length in which it can differ by, that's your tolerance. That's the acceptable difference between the boards that they will accept. Anything more than that, they probably toss out. Or they send back to the mill and say, okay, you need to cut me some better boards, which is a pain in the tail. The general format for all of these equations is, and they're using L for length, this number is going to be your ideal length. So that would be my 3.25. The other number is how much it can vary by. So this number out here is the tolerance, or what they also call variance, how much it varies by. So that's 0.02. Could you do the math without needing to set up an equation? I sure hope so. But they're asking you to write an equation because it's something that we really, really, really need to work on. And when I say really, really, I mean we need to work on it a lot. And that's kind of just part of the job of us teaching you that format. Okay, are we creating, based off of our equation, an and statement or an or statement? Why an and? Because it's less than, and a less than creates an and statement. I hope that some of you guys would be able to do this without actually needing to solve this equation. But sometimes we just do math and don't think about the common sense part of it, which I was kind of ripping on you guys a couple weeks ago about. And that's just because we don't need to necessarily have a math equation for everything. So what is the maximum length allowed? What is the most that this board would be good at? 3.27. Whoops, so I wrote that instead of writing my work. Okay, what is the smallest length that would be acceptable for this board mill? 3.23. Okay. Could you have done the math out here without needing to set up an equation? I sure hope so. But one thing that we have to continually work on is writing these equations, so that's why we're going to punch that part. Okay? Questions about the smallest to the biggest and why it's okay. The inequality symbols are always going in that same direction because it's an and statement. Okay, you guys are doing 11 on your own down on the bottom. And none of these problems are really hard today. It's kind of nice. Well, in the beginning, they're not. Kind of, you shouldn't have to think too much till the end of the hour today.
Okay, and then I have a question on this one. So this one's like one of the older ones, but what does it mean?
Right. So you describe the shape, right? Why do you think that it is this? Basically. So why were you able to say the shape of this? Why were you able to say that this is a fragment? Or what about this or what about that allows you to say that?
Just how it's drawn.
Yeah, yours is the shape here, but this is not actually straight.
So is that exponential?
No, so you have to, so your options are linear or quadratic.
I put
This is-
exponential for like all of these.
So exclude. So when we did this, we did first and second differences also. So you're gonna wanna go back and look at the notes and look at first or second differences because based off the table, you can also tell that it's a quadratic rather than an exponential. Okay?
So like these all are part of quadratic? Okay.
And that's what made it hard to tell, is like it was only part of the information, not all the information.
Okay. So then, but then
But I mean, you can hand it in, I'll grade it, and then hand it back to you. And that way at least you have a grade.
I don't think I got any linear.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Where do I put it? A minute or two? A 10? Okay, so I'm gonna use B for box. I have the ideal weight as 13.8 ounces. And then the tolerance I have is 0.1 ounce. Okay? So in the bars, B minus 13.8. Somebody asked me earlier, how and why do you know that it's a minus sign? So why is it a minus sign? How do you guys know that it is? Say it again?
Because you told us.
Told you what? Your first is right. But why? What is the general equation?
It has to be positive, right? So that when you put it on the other side, it's positive.
Right. So this is always a minus inside because the general equation, because you have to add 13.8 to 0.1, right? Remember that the general, and I erased this the other day, and I probably shouldn't have. The general equation has a minus in there. So that when you graph it, it's actually a horizontal shift right and left. So yes, part of it is, the reason is, I told you, but the other reason is, because you have to add 13.8 to 0.1. And if it wasn't a plus, then it would be you subtracting it, and then you'd get a negative weight, and that would be terrible, because then that means you bought something that doesn't actually exist. And I don't really want to write that, I want to write this. Okay, do we have to show the work to get 13.9 and 13.7?
No.
Please no. Okay. Am I saying to you that maybe you don't need to show as much work? it would be very sad in my heart if you guys needed to show 13.8 plus 0.1 is 13.9. So last week I said to you, we're going to start showing less work. Now that we're getting deeper into different things, we're starting to learn each other, a little less work here. And I kind of started showing you a little less work at the end of the week. Does that mean that you don't have to show the equation and this? No. You have to show some sort of understanding to me about what this is to get this, okay? Whether you need to write it all or not, that's going to be up to you guys. All right, here's what you're going to do right now. I'm going to let you guys start to group up based on people that you have in other classes, based on if you're on a team together, based on if you sit by them at lunch, or you ride in the car together at school. Some people might ride together on the bus and you kind of sit in, proximity of each other. They came to get my seating chart again this morning. So with that being said, we have to kind of get used to the fact that maybe you're going to be quarantined at some point, right? If you do get quarantined at some point, I want to minimize how many people get quarantined. So if you have, or you sit by another student in this class in a different class, I need to know that because I want you guys to basically pick up the least amount of people. So let's just say you sit in the mid, just hold on. Hey, if you're Megan, right, and she gets quarantined, she's taking out basically at least 6 people, maybe 8. If it's Anna in the back, she's only taking out 5, right? Casey up here, she's taking out 5. So if you sit by another person in another class, Matt, smashed up over the nose, that's part of the problem. If you sit by another person from another class,
you're doing the same thing.
Mine is here. No, not here.
No,
Here.
no, it was
If you sit by, it's falling off. If you sit by another person from another class, that takes less people out. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's the information that I'm going to start to get from you guys today. Also, because today and tomorrow are nice, we're going to finish 2-3 today. We're going to review tomorrow. I'm going to let you guys go outside. However, it has to be a group of 4. Most group of 4. If you don't want to work by anybody else, don't. I don't care. When you're in class, you cannot be face to face. When you're outside face to face, but spaced separate, like 6 feet apart. In class, it's shoulder to shoulder only. Okay? So outside, space yourself 6 feet apart. If you have people that you want to work with, or you sit by another class, I get that. If you want to stay alone, or you don't have anybody else in any other classes, that's fine too. Okay? What you guys are going to do is 17 through 24 on page 96. Tomorrow we are test reviewing because the test is Wednesday. 17 through 24. Tyler, are you writing in your book?
Maybe.
Tyler, you're writing in your notebook for 2 reasons. No.
Yeah, just me.
That's a general directed question. Welcome back to school, Matt. You're writing in your notebook for 2 reasons. One is I don't want you writing in the book. 2 is if these questions pop up on a quiz or test, then you can use your notebook. Okay? If you go outside, you might want to take a chair with you, calculator. I'm going to keep a timer so that we keep track of time. So we have about 15, almost 20 minutes. So I will keep a watch on the time out there for you guys as well. Okay? 4 people max. Take a chair with you if you want to go outside. We're in our what? Yeah.
Tyler, come on. I could just walk out there without that.
calculator?
Why would you sit on the ground?
I would write that down.
That's lazy.
I know.
Yeah, Megan, that's lazy.
If I had to so much that all about sit by anybody else.
No, I mean, Megan's on my cross country team.
Yeah, where's state finals this weekend?
Yeah, but no needed.
Very.
I mean, Jeremy would have, but he couldn't because he wasn't able to run regionals.
How about you?
I don't have any classes.
And I would be back.
Action? Yeah.
Oh, like the smart people.
Do we got calculators? Nope. You don't?
You got your phone, dude.
True. If not, Tyler has his.
Forgot to shut my video off.
Do you have